stop scrolling. You need to hear this now. Because what just happened in Sydney is not a local story. It's a global signal flare. One violent moment, and suddenly the ground shifts. Fear surges, narratives collide, and powerful governments move fast to control what you believe this means. Ask yourself this. How many times have we watched chaos unfold and been told, this was unpredictable, only to see the same failures repeat? This is one of those moments where attention matters, where distraction is dangerous, where silence costs more than awareness. What's at stake isn't just safety in one city. It's confidence in the systems that run modern life, the balance of power between nations, and the truth versus the spin racing across your screen right now. If you stay with me, you're going to see what most headlines won't explain: how fear is weaponized, why governments keep reacting instead of preventing, and how global players seize moments like this to reshape perception. We're cutting through the noise, starting with the reality that changes everything. This attack didn't just shock Sydney. It exposed deep cracks in urban security systems. Bondi attack exposes deep cracks in urban security systems, and it forces a reality check that no one in power wanted today. Because what unfolded in Sydney wasn't just a violent eruption, it was a stress test. And the system blinked. This was a major city, a public space, broad daylight, and within moments, the illusion of control vanished. People ran, information collapsed, and the response lag became part of the story in real time. This is what breaking news actually looks like now. Not just what happened, but how fast institutions can or cannot keep up. And as the dust was still settling, the questions hit hard and fast. How did this happen? Where were the safeguards, and why do these incidents keep catching cities off guard, despite years of promises, budgets, and new security frameworks? Urban life is built on the assumption that layers of protection are working silently in the background. Cameras, patrols, intelligence sharing, emergency coordination. The Bondi attack ripped that assumption open. It exposed how modern cities prioritize movement, commerce, and density, while leaving critical vulnerabilities unresolved. When you design spaces for maximum flow and minimum friction, you also design moments where chaos can travel faster than control. And that's exactly what we witnessed. The response wasn't slow because individuals failed. It was slow because systems are stretched, fragmented, and reactive by design. This isn't speculation. This is pattern recognition. And people feel it even if officials don't say it out loud. Every time an incident like this happens, the same script rolls out: isolated actor, rare event, lessons will be learned. But the public sees something else entirely. A repeating breakdown where prevention is theoretical and response is improvisational. And here's the part that matters right now. While Sydney was still processing shock and grief, the global narrative didn't wait. Russia reframes Sydney tragedy as Western intelligence failure. And that move was immediate, calculated, and loud enough to cut through the noise. This wasn't a condolence first message. It was a structural critique delivered through a geopolitical lens. Russian officials pointed to what they described as systemic weaknesses in Western security coordination, arguing that these attacks are not anomalies, but symptoms of deeper institutional decay. Whether you agree or not is secondary to understanding why this messaging lands. It lands because it taps into an existing sense of unease across Western societies, where people already feel that governments respond after the fact, instead of investing seriously in prevention, mental health infrastructure, intelligence integration, and social stability. Russia didn't invent that doubt, it amplified it. And amplification is power in a crisis cycle. This is how modern information warfare works. Tragedy becomes a data point, a city becomes a case study, and within hours, the event is folded into a larger argument about who is competent, who is failing, and who should be trusted. When a global power reframes a local attack as proof of systemic failure, it forces Western governments into a defensive posture. Whether they want it or not, silence looks like avoidance. Overreaction looks like panic, and carefully worded statements struggle to compete with blunt accusations that spread faster online. That's the environment leaders are operating in now. And let's be clear, Russia's framing isn't altruistic, it's strategic. By highlighting intelligence failures, they position themselves as observers of decline rather than participants in instability. They point outward while reinforcing a narrative of Western overconfidence and underpreparedness. This isn't new, but the timing is everything. When fear is high, people are more receptive to structural explanations than comforting reassurances. They want to know why systems keep breaking. They want to know if anyone is actually in control. And when officials focus narrowly on suspects and timelines, they leave a vacuum that others are more than willing to fill. The Bondi attack created that vacuum instantly. Conflicting reports, partial information, delayed clarity. In that gap, alternative narratives thrive, and the most effective ones aren't emotional. They're analytical. They talk about coordination failures, intelligence blind spots, resource misallocation. They sound rational, they sound calm, and that makes them dangerous if they go unchallenged. This is the moment where urban security stops being a local issue and becomes a referendum on governance itself. Cities are where economic pressure, social stress, and political symbolism collide. They're targets not just because of density, but because failure is visible. A breakdown in a city is a broadcast to the world. And when those breakdowns happen repeatedly across different countries, they start to look less like coincidence and more like design flaws. That's the argument Russia is pushing, and it resonates because people can connect it to their own lived experience. Rising anxiety, stretched services, visible homelessness, underfunded public safety, and leaders who speak in abstractions while expecting trust. The Bondi attack didn't create these conditions. It exposed them, and exposure is destabilizing because it strips away the comfort of believing that systems are stronger than they are. This is why the response matters more than the rhetoric. Acknowledging cracks is not weakness, pretending they don't exist. The real risk now isn't just copycat incidents or heightened fear. It's erosion of public confidence. Once people believe that security is performative rather than preventive, behavior changes, trust drops, social cohesion frays, and that creates exactly the instability that adversarial narratives thrive on. That's the feedback loop unfolding in real time. Bondi becomes a symbol not because of what happened there, but because of what it reveals about how modern societies handle risk, crisis, and accountability under pressure. And as this story continues to develop, every delayed answer, every vague assurance, every missed opportunity to speak plainly feeds into a larger question people are already asking quietly about whether the systems meant to protect everyday life are actually designed to do so, or whether they are built to manage fallout once protection fails. And the world is already watching global powers weaponize crisis narratives within hours. And that reality is unfolding in real time as officials, analysts, and state-backed channels race to define what the Bondi attack means before the facts fully land. This is the modern crisis cycle. Information moves slower than interpretation, and interpretation moves faster than truth. Governments don't wait for investigations anymore. They stake positions. Statements are calibrated, blame is implied, credibility is tested. In the vacuum between what's known and what's confirmed, power asserts itself through framing, not evidence. And while that happens, fear spreads faster than facts after mass casualty events, because fear doesn't need verification. It needs repetition. Social feeds flood with clips, sirens, speculation, half answers. People share first, think later, markets twitch, communities lock down emotionally before authorities lock anything down physically. This isn't hysteria. It's human response colliding with a digital system built to reward speed over accuracy. In moments like this, calm voices struggle to be heard while the loudest narratives harden quickly, shaping public perception before investigations can catch up, before accountability can even be defined, before clarity has a chance to stabilize the moment global powers weaponize crisis narratives. Within hours, and that reality is unfolding in real time as officials, analysts, and state-backed channels race to define what the Bondi attack means before the facts fully land. This is the modern crisis cycle. Information moves slower than interpretation, and interpretation moves faster than truth. Governments don't wait for investigations anymore. They stake positions. Statements are calibrated. Blame is implied. Credibility is tested. In the vacuum between what's known and what's confirmed, power asserts itself through framing, not evidence. And while that happens, fear spreads faster than facts after mass casualty events, because fear doesn't need verification. It needs repetition. Social feeds flood with clips, sirens, speculation, half answers. People share first, think later. Markets twitch. Communities lock down emotionally before authorities lock anything down physically. This isn't hysteria. It's human response, colliding with a digital system built to reward speed over accuracy. In moments like this, calm voices struggle to be heard while the loudest narratives harden quickly, shaping public perception before investigations can catch up, before accountability can even be defined, before clarity has a chance to stabilize the moment. Governments default to reaction, not prevention. And the pattern is unmistakable once the initial shock fades. Emergency powers activate, press conferences roll out, and reassurance replaces reform. Leaders speak about resilience while sidestepping the harder work of early intervention, intelligence coordination, and long-term social investment. The public hears promises of reviews and task forces, but what's missing is urgency before the next crisis, not after it. And as this cycle repeats, public trust, tested as security gaps, come into focus. Because people aren't just watching the response. They're measuring credibility. Every delay, every contradiction, every vague statement widens the distance between authority and confidence. Trust erodes quietly long before it collapses loudly. Tragedy becomes leverage in geopolitical messaging the moment the facts stop being local and start being strategic. And the Bondi attack crossed that line almost immediately. Global actors didn't wait for investigations to finish before folding the violence into broader narratives about competence, stability, and decline. Statements were crafted to signal strength by pointing out weakness elsewhere. At the same time, institutional blind spots revealed under pressure came into sharp focus, not just in intelligence sharing, but in how authorities communicate uncertainty. Systems built to operate smoothly in normal conditions strain when events accelerate, exposing gaps that were invisible until stress forced them into the open crisis. Headlines mask long-term structural failures. As the news cycle compresses complex breakdowns into digestible shock, urgency, and spectacle, the focus locks onto the moment of violence, the immediate response, the visible damage, while the quieter forces that made the crisis possible fade into the background. Funding gaps, fragmented oversight, policy inertia, and social strain don't trend, so they don't lead. And as attention shifts rapidly from one breaking update to the next, accountability questioned amid rapid political spin becomes unavoidable. Officials move quickly to control narrative space, emphasizing action over explanation, stability over scrutiny. The faster the spin, the harder it becomes to separate responsibility from performance, leaving the public to wonder not just what failed, but who is truly answerable. Here's the truth you can't ignore. This wasn't just an attack, it was a stress test, and too many systems failed it. We saw how quickly fear overtakes facts, how fast global powers move to exploit uncertainty, and how easily real accountability gets buried under urgency and spin. This matters to you because these aren't abstract failures. They shape how safe cities are, how trustworthy leaders are, and how stable everyday life really is. The choice now is awareness or apathy. Clarity or comfort. Staying informed isn't paranoia. It's protection. This is USA World Reports, and our mission is to keep you ahead of the narratives that shape your world. Thank you for staying with us. If you believe truth matters more than noise, like this video, share it, and join the conversation in the comments. Subscribe to stay informed, stay alert, and stay ahead. Because the next global shift is already unfolding.